Hey, Dr. Jon Finn here. Welcome to the Habit Mechanic podcast. Right now, you can get my new best-selling book, Train Your Brain for the AI Revolution, at tougherminds.co.uk. The digital book, audiobook, and physical book are all available at a special price that you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, Habit Mechanics. Thank you for joining us today. As the main topic, we want to talk about stress. We know levels of stress feel like they're increasing for everybody. We can see that in our own work and the response we get to things when the word stress is mentioned. So that's what we're going to really focus on. And if any questions emerge about the things you hear us say, then please do ask us those questions as well, or comments. Tell us where you're joining from is also good to know. So I'm joined today by my friend and colleague, Andrew Whitelam. Andrew, how you doing?
Yeah, hi, John. Yeah, great to be with you again. And yeah, it's a perennial subject. I know that you are asked about in your work and in the training you deliver and the people you meet. Stress is seems to be a blight on our society, ever increasing. You hear more reports of it, and this week, especially in the workplace, affecting people with high pressure jobs in major corporations and businesses and organizations. But this week, I think there was a report by the charity Bernardo's, which is a children's charity, so not relating to adults, but that highlighted really increasing levels of poor mental health. I think they referred to a youth mental health crisis, and they were asking the government to come up with a national strategy, etc. So another sign that these organizations who monitor these type of things are detecting more and more stress in our communities and societies.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people understand what stress means. Stress is just a natural neurobiological reaction in your brain. It happens because there's a disconnection between what you expect should be happening versus what's happening. And you get the stress response that follows that. And every day there is news we hear that jars with what we expect should be happening. We have multiple wars going on in the world at the moment. Many people are facing challenges in paying mortgages and things. We've got these post-COVID transitions still going on. Are the kids settling back into school? Are we going back to the office full time? Are we staying hybrid? Why is my marketing strategy not working anymore? How's AI gonna change my role at work? All this stuff is going on and it's not going away. So the disconnection is what causes the stress response. And in the VUCA world, the post-COVID world, we have more disconnections than ever before. We're surrounded by them. And a huge part of my own PhD work is in transitions and stress. And academically, a transition is just a period of heightened change. And there are some very normal transitions that we have in our life, like moving from being an adult or a teenager to an adult. But there are lots of non-normal transitions as well. And I think that for most people, if not everybody, the post-COVID world has kind of propelled us, elevated us into these sort of perpetual transitional states where things just seem to be changing all the time. And the problem with that is with heightened stress responses, even though it's a natural response, it's only designed to last about 3 seconds. When it goes on for longer than that, it starts to damage our brain function. So, which has short-term negative consequences, but also long-term negative consequences. So we're just in a world where we're being overly stressed, and I'm not compelled the things that we're doing to help people feel better and do better work. I don't see any evidence for that. I see more and more stressed people, more and more resources to help them, and nothing changes. And I think that what we saw with the COVID pandemic is a really good example of when you find a solution that works and helps people. So there was a global pandemic, a new disease we hadn't seen before, and we got teams of scientists who created vaccines that helped us to manage the problem, in a seriously positive way. You can think of where we were in the lockdown to where we are now. What I see when it comes to stress, mental health and well-being is on one end of a continuum for high performance. I see more and more people being diagnosed with problems, both formally and informally. So more and more people struggling. I see more and more investment and support to help people with those problems, but I don't see that any evidence the solution works, because whether it's the therapy, it isn't designed to change people's behavior. Unfortunately, we can't just inject people with a vaccination for stress. It's not as simple as that. What we need to do is help people to build new behaviors, new habits. But the treatments we have in place are really designed to give people more knowledge about what they should be doing, and at best a few skills. And then sometimes plugged into that is a little bit of medicine, which is like the equivalent of taking an ibuprofen if you've strained your calf. It's not helping people to practice doing things differently, and therefore habitualizing better ways of doing things. And I think that the habit mechanic approach is the vaccination for stress and for all these problems. But unfortunately, our approach isn't used by governments, etc. So we're out there. We're making our stuff available, but it's a noisy world out there.
Yeah, I'd like to talk in greater depth about that vaccination, about that cure, if we can use it in those terms that you've just highlighted. But before we do that, I think it's just worth just considering in a bit greater detail what you said about this aspect, this disconnection that is at the heart of stress, as you've explained to us. And I think a couple of things you said are so interesting. You highlighted the transition, the permanent state of change that exists now, which I recognize certainly in the post-COVID world. And then also, certainly in a work context, we have this disconnection that might occur in interpersonal circumstances. I mean, if we just start with that, I know in your work and in the book, you cite the experience people might have when they perhaps do a long form piece of work in their professional life. They submit a report, they put some analysis together, they send it to their boss or a team, and it doesn't get a good reception. They're expecting that, but it doesn't happen. That's a disconnection which would cause them to feel stress, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And this stuff's going on all the time, and it doesn't even have to happen. It can just be your brain imagining it's happening. So if we go to the lighthouse brain model, the hue, the horribly unhelpful emotion that's controlling the beam of light, its primary job is to look for these disconnections that we call threats, worries, problems, but not just right now in the present. It's also looking backwards in time, thinking about stuff that went wrong previously. It's also looking forwards in time. And the disconnection could be as simple as I hold the door open for somebody. I expect them to say, thank you, that's very kind of you. You're a gentleman. Maybe not the last bit, but then you open the door and they just ignore you. That's a disconnection. I don't think anyone's expecting that we should be having these global or these conflicts going on. People are not expecting that energy prices should be going so high and the energy companies should be making so much money. That doesn't make sense. I'm finding at the moment, for some reason, it's almost like every bit of integral software to our business has changed. It's the way it looks and the basic way that you use it, which causes a huge stress because you're habitualized to using a software in a certain way, and then it changes. So you have to relearn it, but you don't have time to relearn it. So this stuff is surrounding us. You might walk in the house tonight and do expect your partner to say, hey, how you doing? Did you have a good day? But they ignore you because you didn't do the washing up this morning or something. So yeah, they're surrounding us. And unfortunately, people think of the fight or flight response, which is the first part of the stress response. Rightly so, it's to do with physical violence threats, which is a very academic, cold way of saying it, but that's what it's about. We're trying to avoid physical violence. So it feels like the stress response is quite useful when a lion, tiger, or bear comes into the room and you need to get out of the room quickly. And we can see And I did a lot of psychophysiology when I did my master's. I went really deep into it. And I always remember we were measuring all this stuff all the time using quite sophisticated measurement tools. And we had sweat measurement tool. And I remember one of the explanations for that. Well, why do we sweat on our palms when we get stressed? And one of the evolutionary understandings is, the sort of anthropological understandings, is that we used to have hairy palms and they would have been greasy and dirty, so that if you made them wet, they would become sticky, so that you could literally climb something and avoid a predator. But fast forward into today, and the fact that we don't just get stress responses for physical violence threats, we also get stress responses for social status threats. So I feel like people's perception of me is being reduced. And a challenge we face is that we've got this unprecedented ability to connect with people across the globe now. You know, yeah, we've had Facebook, etc. for a while, but right now, more people than ever have like a little computer in their pocket that is way more powerful than the stuff that sent the first person to the moon. And it's sitting in their pocket, and it allows them to FaceTime with anybody in the world. But on our smartphones, we've got social media. And that social media is allowing us to compare our lives to everybody else's. And our brains are just not designed to deal with that. We are designed to live in small, little communities. Now we're able to compare our life to anybody on the planet. And that makes a lot of people feel not very good about themselves. So we have some very real 21st century things that are going on that are making it more and more stress responses happen in our brain. And then on top of that, so we've got all these changes going on in our life. We've got this almost like a false global community that is being forced upon us via things like social media, stuff that our brain is just not designed to deal with. And then on top of all of that, we've got a brain that isn't working as well as it should, because sleeping properly, exercising properly, and eating properly is harder than ever before. And you say those three things and people go, well, they're easy to do. Turns out they can't be that easy to do, because people not doing those three things well is costing for, well, that is the cornerstone of why we've got mental health pandemic in the Western world, because people's brains are not working well, because they're not sleeping properly. We're sleeping less than ever before. And not all sleep is equivocal. It's about high quality sleep. If you're stressed, you just don't sleep as well. And the double-edged sword of that is the thing that you need to really be getting right if you're stressed is high quality sleep, because that allows you to process out all the unhelpful stuff. And it also allows your brain to cleanse itself. We see reports now that if you come to diet, at least 50% of the food that people buy every day in the supermarkets is ultra processed. That means our body does not know what to do with it. It can't get past the blood-brain barrier in a meaningful way. We don't think about diet as nurturing our brain function. We always think about diet as, is that going to make me fat or is it going to make me thin? That's the least of your concerns. Worry about, is this helpful for my brain? Because if we can't put the right nutrition into our brain to get it working well, nothing else in our life is going to be working properly. And we're not going to be able to build the weight loss habits we need in order to change our body shape. So, for most of our existence as a species, we've been eating natural, whole foods. So our bodies become accustomed to those foods and it knows what they are. This ultra processed stuff that's made in factories, our body doesn't know what it is. So it can't use it properly. It can't add nourishment. It can't allow us to build new wires in our brain to build better stress management habits or better sleep habits or better weight loss habits or whatever. And then exercise, before the pandemic, people at least had to leave the house. We already had a big exercise problem, people not doing enough of it. Exercise includes walking. We're designed as a species to walk about 12 miles per day. And part of the benefit of that is managing stress. It gets your brain working well. And it supercharges your ability to learn new behaviors that make it easier to manage stress. And we've had our own colleague, Professor Jim McKenna, who's a world-leading expert in behavior change in terms of exercise. He's been banging that drum for the last 30 years that we need to do more exercise, but the pandemic made it even more difficult, and that we were even restricted. We could only leave the house for so long. So these very simple things we need to do to get our brain working well are also harder to do than ever before. So I'm sorry for painting such a challenging picture, but I think it's real.
Yeah, it is, no doubt, Jon. And I know you've have people giving you an account of their lives it is very similar to scenarios you've just outlined time and time again when you've worked with major companies in the City of London or in the US, or with individuals in different scenarios. So as you say, it's very real. The good news, however, is that you have, of course, the Habit Mechanic University, but you're working also on more ways to help people, respond to this stress state that they're finding themselves in. Please do tell us more.
Yeah, so we've obviously put the book out there, it's a Bible, it's a toolkit for success, it's a manual for life, and people literally are telling us that every day. So glad I've got the book. I pick it up and I look at it again. But we've decided to release some very specific training that's accessible to everybody. And the first training we're releasing is called Destroy Your Stress in 3 days, and it's a masterclass, and it's a series of trainings that you do over a number of days that are designed. So it's designed to do 3 core things. One is help you to understand your stress at the brain level, understand what is actually going on when you experience a disconnection. Then it helps you to and stress is a 2-part response, a stress response. First part is a fight or flight response. Second part is, we might call it cognitive dissonance, we might call it something else, but it helps you to deal with both those parts of the stress response and build better habits so that you can automate how you deal with the response. And that is the key. It's not knowing what to do, it's being able to build the habit. So we are releasing that in the near future, making it available to everybody, and it's going to make a huge difference for people that are feeling that they're overwhelmed or they can't focus, etc., because I think that although we don't often think of it in these terms, as I've just outlined, for me, stress really is the core main effect variable in people not doing as well as they want to. And what we also see is that when we start to help people to manage stress better, it unlocks their 25-hour brain, which is what the stress management program allows you to do.
Yeah, if I could just ask then, Jon, this solution to destroy stress, which sounds fantastic. Could you give us a bit more insight into, what will the components be? How will people actually be able to use them day in, day out in their own lives and in their own work?
Yeah, so to understand that, we have to understand the 25-hour brain. People might be familiar with our approach. They're familiar with concepts like activation and the high charge brain states and the brain being a bit like a battery. So we only have 24 hours in a day. That's all we've got. And we think of that as being a bit like a barcode. So, but instead of a black and white barcode, it's a blue and red barcode. So you can think of the red lines in the barcode as being times in the day when you're thinking and doing things that are not helping you to be at your best. That includes poor quality sleep. It includes beating yourself up and worrying, eating the wrong food, not exercising properly, being unfocused and unproductive. And then we also have blue lines. That's times in the day when you're doing and thinking things that are helping you to be at your best. That includes things like good quality sleep, good stress management habits, good focus and productivity habits, etc. And for all the reasons we've been talking about, it's easier than ever to have more and more of those red lines in your day. And they're almost like they're taking over, even when you're sleeping, because the sleep quality is so poor. So we've learned that if we can help people to unlock their 25-hour brain, which I will unpack shortly, that is the main effect variable for getting rid of more of those red lines and building more blue lines. And those lines are habits ultimately, because most of what we think and do is automatic, semi-automatic. And what we see is that if you can unlock your 25-hour brain and you really boil it down, what benefits do I get from that? Well, you get to be able to do more high impact work for happiness and performance. So when I say the word work, people often think of what they do at work, but I'm also talking about working on ourselves. So by getting our brain working really well, we're able to do more quality work on ourselves. So we can build better stress management habits. We can build better sleep habits, because this is where personal change falls down. People know what to do, but they don't have the brain capacity to then keep practicing those things. So therefore they just default back to the habit. So we see that on one end of a continuum, if you're really struggling, unlocking your 25-hour brain can give you over 80 extra hours of high impact work per month. So you can work on yourself properly, but also so you can do some fantastic professional work. On the other end of the continuum, people who already think they're doing really well, we see that even then, learning how to unlock your 25-hour brain can give you an extra 20 hours of high impact work per month, both on yourself and in work. And it's so key, because when we do that high impact work, that allows us to make personal progress, to get more control over our lives. And that is the secret source of being happy that is often completely ignored. We think of happiness as hedonism, doing nice things for ourselves, self-care. Self-care doesn't change your brain. It doesn't make you feel like you are making personal progress. So unlocking your 25-hour brain unlocks that. So you finish the day, you feel good. And you can actually switch off in the evening and relax and recharge. And you can actually move towards achieving your big, meaningful goals, like you map out in your fam story. So that's what unlocking the 25-hour brain does. What is the 25-hour brain then? Well, to understand it, we have to understand some core ingredients. The first ingredients are about the sort of work that we do, both on ourselves but at work. And I like to split these into two categories. One is freezing ice cubes. The other one is building ice sculptures. So the freezing ice cube type of work that we do is busy, habit-based work. So in a work context, it might be replying to easy emails. It might be replying to easy phone calls. It might be just doing admin tasks that you know how to do. Increasingly in a work context, those roles, those jobs are being automated, and AI is being used to replace human beings to do those jobs. And that's going to really scale up in the coming 12 months to 24 months and the next 5 years or so. So as a human, you may be great doing busy work, but unfortunately technology is going to be able to do it much cheaper than you can. So you're not going to be very valued for that. Every day we're freezing ice cubes in our own life as well. And it's just doing the habits that we're already doing, you know. A freezing ice cube example might actually be beating yourself up and worrying, because that's what you're in the habit of doing. You don't think of that as a job, but you are doing that every day. So it is sort of a job and a role and responsibility that you're engaging in. And the other type of work that we do is building ice sculptures. This is where the high impact work sits. So we use our high charge brain, which I'll talk about in a sec, to build ice sculptures. That could be doing mentally complex work at work, writing a new report, creating a new product, working out a new sales strategy, whatever it is. But we also use our high impact brain to to build ice sculptures in our own lives. So it could be building a better stress management habit, it could be building a better sleep habit, building better habits so I can be a better leader. So we split the work that we do into freezing ice cubes, building ice sculptures. The second group of ingredients relate to what we call brain state. So we imagine that our brain is a bit like a battery, and it has three distinct charge states. The first brain state is what we call the recharge brain state. So we can do sleep recharge, we can do non-sleep recharge, where we're just switching off, we're relaxing. In every 24-hour period, we need to do some recharge. The second brain state is the medium charge brain state. So we use our medium charge brain state to freeze ice cubes. So the energy we expend to do automatic tasks at work, but also the energy we expend to do our automated behaviors for better or for worse, whether that's sleeping poorly, beating ourselves up too much, not being a great leader, being unfocused and unproductive. That's medium charge work. And then the third brain state is high charge. So we use our high charge brain state to do high impact work, both at work, but also working on ourselves to build new habits. That's the brain state we use to build ice sculptures. So we've got ice cubes and ice sculptures, and we've got recharge brain states, medium charge brain states, and high charge brain states. Now, there's an optimal relationship between how we use the brain states in any 24-hour period. So we can think of the relationship between the three brain states as a pyramid. So the basis of the pyramid is the recharge brain states. So in every 24-hour period, we're going to need to do more recharge. We're going to need to use our recharge brain more than any of the other two brains. That's the basis. The next level of the pyramid is the medium charge brain state. We'll spend the second most amount of time in the medium charge brain state. And the third, or the top level of the pyramid, is the high charge brain state. So we'll spend the least amount of time in the high charge brain state. High charge is a scarce cognitive resource. And if we don't get the recharge right, we can't do the high charge properly. So I can put some numbers on that, the personal numbers I aim towards, but also I've worked with over 10,000 people now. So this pattern, these numbers come up time and time again. I'm aiming in a working 24-hour period, should I say, to do at least 12 hours of recharge. Doesn't mean sleep, it means sleep plus exercise, plus when I'm eating, plus when I'm just switching off and relaxing. It could be playing with the kids or having a gentle conversation about something. People's recharge is different, for them. It's unique to you, but it's about getting your activation to the right level. So 12 hours there, about 7 hours in medium charge states. But then what I want to do is I want to do, as a minimal, 5 hours of focused high impact work per working day, both on myself and at work, a little bit of both. And I want to do that 5 times a week. So that's where the 25-hour brain comes in. Now, we can't do that if we're doing too much medium charge work, which is typically what people do. They don't do enough recharge, which means they can't do high charge, and they just spend up their time in this medium charge brain state, busy but unfocused, work that doesn't make me feel good about myself, doesn't make me feel like I'm making progress, etc. And so what does the Destroy Your Stress in 3 Days masterclass do? It allows you to do higher quality recharge so that we can get a better balance between the recharge and the medium charge and activate our 25-hour brain. So that's a summary of what we're doing with the Destroy Your Stress in 3 Days masterclass.
Yeah, I have to say, John, I know when I first heard your analysis of the brain states and the different states of charge, recharge, medium and high, that alone helped me to start dealing with some stresses because you understand about your capacity, I suppose. So I think that's an incredibly practically useful concept, and it's fantastic that it's going to be embedded into the Destroy Your Stress in 3 days masterclass. Just remind us, Jon, how should people look out for this? How will you be making it available to them?
Yeah, so we'll let you know when it's ready. It's coming in the very near future, so look out for your emails. And then, yeah, it's open to anybody, so anyone can sign up, both individuals, or you might want this for the people in your business, because the key to your business success is your people unlocking their 25-hour brain. Equally as an individual, the key to being happy and healthy and successful is unlocking your 25-hour brain. And the Destroy Your Stress in 3 days masterclass is going to set the foundations for allowing you to do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know, Jon. We're approaching the half-hour mark. We'll keep going a little longer because I know a question that you often receive from people when you talk about stress and raise the subject is, they're almost, they say, I'm paraphrasing a few different bits of feedback here. They say I'm too stressed to start. It's too difficult to start tackling these problems that are in my life because I'm so busy. I'm stressed about being stressed, as it were. What's one thing you would say to someone reporting that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, if you want to increase your chances of getting dementia and cancer and lots of other nasty long-term illnesses, just carry on in that mode, because that's what it will do. And it might sound horrible saying that. I'm not meaning to be horrible. This is real now. We think we've seen problems in this space before, but they're going to be nothing compared to the next 15 years. This is real. We are destroying our brains. So you can't afford not to stop and be more proactive on working on yourself. People who've used our tools will see that they are super simple, they are super practical, and you just got to start with one small thing, and that's going to get your brain working a little bit better. It will free up time, and we say spend minutes to save hours. But it's not about having a magic switch where 1 minute you're overwhelmed with stress, the next minute you're not. It's about changing the wires in your brain one by one. But you need to know why. And I don't know anyone who doesn't want to be healthy and happy in the distant future. So, if that's the top of your fam story, then the bottom needs to be getting your brain working well, which means we've got to have to tackle stress. And that's why we created the Destroy Your Stress in 3 days masterclass.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful just to know that you can start small. You can just start to make a tiny change, and that will lead to more and more benefit and gains. Yeah. Well, it's been a fascinating session as ever, Jon. Thanks so much for your time. I'm sure people will be very keenly looking out for the Destroy Your Stress in 3 days masterclass coming soon. And we'll make people aware of that through the usual channels. Thanks very much. Anything you'd like to say to finish off?
Just thank you for listening. And if you do want to get better at dealing with your stress, getting your brain working well, you're only ever one stress management habit away. And you'll find those habits in the Destroy Your Stress in 3 days masterclass. But thanks for listening, and bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Habit Mechanic podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell someone else about one of the ideas or insights that you found most interesting.